Welcome to Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Weldin. Today's story is a Korean folktale from the Joseon dynasty called Kongji and Patji, and it's written for you by guest writer Nina Key. Thanks! Enjoy the episode! Kongji and Patji. Long, long ago, when tigers smoked long tobacco pipes, there was a husband and wife that lived in the village of Dunsan, Korea. The two hoped and prayed for a child to complete their family, but alas, the poor couple did not have any luck.
You, sighed the man. Our home just doesn't feel like a home with only the two of us here.
Yes, agreed the woman. What a beautiful sight it would be to see a child running through the fields. What a beautiful sound to hear a child's laughter. The man comforted his wife. One day, he said, one day soon we will have a child that we can love and care for. After several long years, their wish was finally granted. The woman gave birth to a most precious and beautiful daughter that they named Kongji. Sadly, the woman became sick and died before Kongji was even 100 days old. And so, Kongji's father raised her by himself as best as he could. When Kongji turned 14, the man suddenly realized that his daughter was becoming a young woman. He thought to himself,
it is time to find myself a wife. My daughter needs a mother who can teach her to become a proper young maiden.
And so, he married an old widow who also had a daughter named Patji. In addition to giving Kongji a mother, the man hoped that through the marriage, Patji could be a playmate for Kongji, and that the two could grow up together as sisters. What Kongji's father did not know, however, was that as pretty and well-mannered as the widow and Patji were on the outside, they were ugly and small-minded on the inside. The two secretly hated Kongji, being jealous of her kindness and beauty inside and out that made her popular with so many of their neighbors and friends. But the life that the man had hoped for his family was not to be. In a few short years, Kongji's father also died of the same sickness that had taken Kongji's mother. And after the man's death, her stepmother and stepsister finally began showing their ugly hearts and treated Kongji very cruelly. They gave her only a little bit of food to eat, taking the best portions of rice, vegetables, and meat for themselves. They gave Kongji only their cast-offs to wear, clothes that Patji had outgrown or that her mother had decided were too old and worn down to wear anymore. And even these clothes quickly became ragged and dirty, as Kongji's stepmother only gave Kongji the hardest, dirtiest work to do around the house. Kongji's hands and feet became rough and calloused. Even as she tried to keep herself clean, her beautiful face and clothes became covered with dirt and mud. Her long black hair became covered in tangles. Bright, beautiful Kongji no longer looked bright and beautiful, and she was soon overlooked and forgotten. Then one day, Kongji's stepmother gave her daughters a task to do. She told them to plow the field next to their home to get it ready for planting and not to come back until the job was done. She gave her favorite daughter, Patji, a sharp metal hoe to work with, and Kongji a dull wooden hoe. Patji quickly finished after an hour or two and returned home in time for lunch. But try as she might, Kongji's wooden hoe would not break into the hard dirt of the field. Even worse, after several hours, Kongji's wooden hoe broke in two. Kongji burst into tears. "Oh, what will I do? My stepmother will be so angry with me," Kongji cried out as she wept. "She will say that I have been lazy and have not done any work, and she'll beat me for breaking my hoe." But just then, a black ox appeared from the heavens. The ox nuzzled Kongji with her wet nose and licked Kongji's tears off of her face with her long tongue. "Don't cry, Kongji," said the ox gently.
"You may not remember me, but when I was just a young calf, you helped me greatly. A pebble was caught in my hoof and you saw me limping. Even though you were busy walking to the market, you stopped and took the time to help me remove the stone. Now I would like to return the favor."
The ox showed Kongji a plow that was hidden in the tall grass, and Kongji helped the ox put it on. Then, the ox easily plowed the field in Kongji's place. After the job was done, the ox gave Kongji a basket full of juicy, delicious apples.
"This is my gift to you," she said. "Please take it with my thanks for helping me so many years ago."
Kongji smiled and bowed respectfully to the ox, thanking her for her help. Then she ran home with the basket of apples. When Kongji showed the ox's gift to her stepmother, however, she looked very angry.
"You stole these," her stepmother said accusingly.
Kongji protested that she hadn't and tried to explain, saying that a magical black ox had given her the fruit. But her stepmother did not listen.
"Thief! Liar!" she cried.
Her stepmother gave the entire basket of apples to Patji, not leaving a single one for Kongji. Then she sent Kongji to bed without any supper. The next day, Kongji's stepmother gave Kongji another impossible task to complete. While she and Patji went off to buy some new clothes and trinkets in town, Kongji was to fill an enormous pot with water.
"Finish filling this pot with water before we return," ordered Kongji's stepmother. "We'll need it to cook rice for dinner."
Kongji looked down at the pot and noticed that it had a large crack the size of a fist at the bottom. "But how will I be able to fill this pot?" Kongji asked anxiously. "This hole here will let all the water spill out." But her stepmother only waved a hand dismissively.
"Oh, you'll find a way. Or else," she said coldly.
And with that, her stepmother and Patji flounced out the front door. At first, Kongji did the best she could, running from the well and back to fill the huge pot with buckets of water. But no matter how hard she tried or how fast she ran, the water leaked out from the crack at the bottom until every precious drop was gone. At last, she fell to her hands and knees in despair. "Oh, what can I do?" she cried. "My mother asks such difficult things of me. There is no way I can fill this pot with water when this hole lets all the water seep out of the bottom." But just then, a toad appeared.
"Well, hello, Kongji," it croaked. "Cheer up, I'm here to help."
Kongji looked at the toad in surprise.
"Listen to me, Kongji," the toad said. "Years ago, you helped me greatly. There was a terrible storm, and my children and I were swept into the river. Even though it was raining and you were running home to avoid getting wet, you stopped to help us. You pulled my children and me out of the water and you saved our lives. For this, I am forever grateful, and it is now my turn to return the favor." With that, the toad fit herself snugly into the crack at the bottom of the pot. Now, when Kongji filled the big pot with buckets of water, no water spilled out through the hole. When her stepmother returned, she was very upset to see Kongji taking a nap by the fire.
"You lazy brat," she said. "I thought I told you to fill that pot with water."
When Kongji showed her the pot, filled to the top with water, her stepmother was astonished.
"But how did you?"
She leaned in to look more closely at the pot's bottom. Just then, Patji screamed.
"A toad!" she cried out. "A dirty, slimy toad at the bottom of the pot!"
In anger, Kongji's stepmother overturned the pot, spilling all the water and all of Kongji's hard work into the dirt.
"There's no way we can use this," she said nastily. "How can we make rice with this water when such a disgusting creature has touched it? You stupid, stupid girl."
She yelled at Kongji and threw the toad out into the field. Now, around this time, a handsome and powerful magistrate had made an announcement to all the villagers that he was looking for a wife. There was a big festival and a dance to be given in his honor, and every maiden was asked to attend. Both Kongji and Patji were invited, but Kongji's stepmother felt nervous that Kongji's presence at the event would ruin Patji's chance to be noticed by the magistrate.
That stupid girl will probably say or do something that would embarrass us all, she grumbled. And with how dirty and unkempt she is, she's not suitable for polite company, she told Patji with a sniff. Her daughter nodded in agreement. So on the day that they were all to leave together for the festival, Kongji's stepmother gave her a chore to do, the hardest and most impossible task of all. You can come to the festival, she told Kongji, after you finish all of your work. With great effort, she first dragged and then threw a giant burlap sack of rice at Kongji's feet. Ugh, hull all of this rice, every single grain, she ordered Kongji breathlessly. And don't be lazy about it. I'll be able to tell if even one rice husk is remaining. Kongji looked at the sack in despair, but knew better than to complain. She hung her head. Yes, Mother, Kongji responded. We'll see you at the dance when you're finished, her stepmother said imperiously. Patji hid a wicked smile with one hand and waved to Kongji with the other. See you soon, she said with a smirk. And then the women left Kongji alone to complete her stepmother's most unreasonable demand all by herself. Kongji fell to her knees and clasped her hands in front of her, praying for help from the heavens. A black ox helped me when my stepmother told me to plow a field with a broken wooden hoe. A toad helped me when my stepmother demanded I fill an enormous cracked pot with water. Please, may I be helped now? She asked. Have I done enough good deeds to receive heaven's aid one last time? And just then, a flock of sparrows appeared by her window. Kongji, Kongji, they chirped. Don't worry, we are here for you. The leader of the flock, a proud, intelligent-looking bird with sharp black eyes and a ring of white around her neck, landed in front of Kongji and hopped forward to speak. We sparrows are indebted to you, Kongji, she declared. Years ago, you were walking through the forest when you came across one of our own who had tried too early to fly and had fallen out of its nest. Even though you were busy looking for mushrooms, you took the time to help the chick find its nest and return it safely inside. The sparrow gave Kongji a broad wink. That chick, of course, was me! The flock erupted into chirps of delight. Dear, dear friend Kongji, they called. Led by their leader, the sparrows descended upon the enormous sack of rice. In the blink of an eye, they had hulled every single piece inside and left only a large pile of clean white grains. Thank you, sparrows, Kongji cried. Thank you, thank you. Suddenly, the flock of sparrows parted down the middle, and from the heavens a celestial maiden appeared in a golden pool of light. Kongji, she said, I have seen your kind heart. I am proud of you and the way you treat others and your efforts to help my friends, the animals. The maiden smiled a bright, luminous smile. I would like to help you get ready for your event, she said, and from the folds of her robes she pulled out the most beautiful clothes that Kongji had ever seen. The dress was made of rich, brightly colored silk, and the shoes were embroidered with decorations of ornate flowers in silk thread. Kongji lowered her head. I'm sorry, I can't take these, she said quietly, a tear trickling down her cheek. These clothes are much too fine, and I would only dirty them in my present state. I do not deserve such a wonderful gift.
The maiden only laughed and shook her head. "Oh, Kongji," the maiden said, "how little you recognize your own impact on those around you. You deserve all this and much, much more." The maiden smiled radiantly at Kongji and continued, saying, "For years, your mother and father desired a child to carry on their good name, and in you, they have helped shape a beautiful soul, inside as well as out." Then she waved a hand in the air. Kongji gasped as she looked down at herself. Her own hands, which were rough and caked with dirt, had become clean and smooth. Shocked, she touched her hair. The messy tangles had returned to their clean, glossy state. Then the maiden waved her hand again. This time, 4 men, strong, handsome, and well-dressed enough to carry a queen, appeared with a magnificent palanquin. "Hurry now," said the maiden to Kongji, a twinkle in her eye. "The men will be waiting to take you to the festival, and you don't want to be late." Kongji thanked the maiden and quickly got dressed, then hurried in the palanquin toward the dance. "I've missed most of the festival, but at least I can see the maidens dance while dressed up in their finest clothes," she thought to herself. "And maybe I can catch a glimpse of the magistrate, who is said to be as handsome as he is clever." But when Kongji slid back the wood and paper door of the palanquin and stepped outside, everybody had turned to look at her. Restored to her original state, and with her fine new clothes, Kongji's inner beauty finally showed in what she looked like on the outside. In fact, she appeared more beautiful than ever before. Even Patji, who was busy trying to ensnare the magistrate in a conversation, paused to look at the young woman who strangely reminded her of someone she knew. Eventually, the magistrate excused himself. I'd like to go ask that young woman what her name is," he told Patji and left. Patji turned to her mother. "How dare that woman?" she grumbled jealously. "How dare she steal the attention of the magistrate? I was so close to charming him and she ruined my chance." Her mother gave her a look and shook her head. "Come with me, girl," she said severely and grabbed Patji by the elbow. "We didn't spend so much money on your clothes and come all the way here for you to come away with nothing," she said imperiously and dragged Patji along. "We will speak to that young woman and see what we can use against her to make the magistrate see you more favorably." Kongji, of course, recognized her stepmother and Patji instantly, and when she saw the two of them coming her way, an evil glint in their eyes, she was terrified. Quickly, she dashed in the opposite direction, forgetting all about the palanquin that was waiting to take her home. She ran back as fast as she could, not stopping even when she tripped and fell while crossing the bridge over the Dual River. One of her precious embroidered shoes slipped off her foot and fell into the waters, but she could only look back once, regretfully, in her race to reach home. Meanwhile, the magistrate commanded his servants to look for Kongji, who had seemingly vanished into thin air, but all they could find was her lost shoe, which had floated to the shore. When they returned with it to the magistrate, he vowed to marry the woman that the shoe belonged to. He ordered his men to find the maiden by trying the shoe on every woman in all the villages in the area. At last, the magistrate and his men reached Dunsan. They stopped by every house in the village, trying the shoe on each of the women who lived there, until they reached Kongji's house at the end of a long, dusty road. Hearing the horses approach, Patji and her mother ran outside to greet them. "Surely the shoe will fit me," Patji whispered to her mother. "Make it fit," her stepmother whispered back between gritted teeth. But when Patji tried to jam the shoe under her foot, it was too large to go all the way in. The magistrate's men sighed. "This is the last of the villages, sir," one man reported to the magistrate. The magistrate passed a keen eye over Kongji's house. "You two are the only women who live here?" he asked. "Yes," Kongji's stepmother started to say, but just then the magistrate spotted Kongji carrying a bucket of water to her home. Before her stepmother could protest, he waved Kongji over to try on the shoe. Shyly, Kongji approached the magistrate and his men. "What is your name?" the magistrate asked kindly. "Kongji," she replied. "Please, Kongji, would you please try on the shoe?" he asked. One of the magistrate's servants lowered the shoe in front of Kongji, and to everyone's surprise, when Kongji slipped her foot in, it fit perfectly. "But this woman is just my stepdaughter," Kongji's stepmother said. "Practically a servant. You see the way she looks and the type of work she does. There's no way that the magistrate could lower himself to marry someone of her status." "Yes!" Patji exclaimed. "And besides, just because the shoe fits does not mean that Kongji is the woman you are looking for." Kongji, however, turned and disappeared back inside of her house. When she returned, all those present gasped in amazement as she presented them with the fine clothes that the celestial maiden had given to her, as well as the other embroidered silk shoe. And so, the magistrate finally found his wife, and Kongji finally had the chance to create a lovely family of her own. Patji and her mother, of course, gnashed their teeth horribly during the wedding ceremony, but the two could only look on as Kongji reached new heights that they themselves could never even hope to reach. From the heavens, the celestial maiden and all her animals sent their well wishes to the young woman who had so frequently helped others and given so much of her own heart, who possessed inner beauty as well as out. In abundance and happiness, Kongji and the magistrate lived happily ever after. The end. Thanks for listening!